Hi and hello, watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood watchmaker, Rob Nuds, and my co host, the friendly neighborhood jeweler, Alon Ben Joseph, calling in all the way from Amsterdam to me in Geneva, where I've just witnessed the results of the GPHG 2024. Alon, I assume that you've seen them come in on your end. What do you think initially? What are your first thoughts?
I was excited to see the results. Unfortunately, I couldn't stream it in real time, but I was digesting all the social media posts. My ex-colleague and my buddy Dimmer works for Van Cleef and Arpels, so he was on a high horse that they won 3 prizes. So that's the first thing I saw. At first, he was bragging that they were the only one, and then he stood corrected because in the Red Bar Crew Amsterdam, we corrected him that AP did that already. But that was amazing. Obviously, I want to give a big shout out to our buddy Sylvain Berneron. We've predicted it from day one when we saw the award, so I'm very happy that that happened because anything can happen at the Oscars of the watchmaking industry. But hey, you are there in the aftermath. You're in Geneva. You are barely alive. How was it? Walk us through the moment you walked onto the red carpet, please.
Okay, so this is the first time that I've ever been to the GPHG Awards, and I knew from the invitation that it was held in the Théâtre de la Man. I didn't know where that was. It's actually just underneath the Fairmont Hotel. So I got a taxi to the event and got out, walked in, asked someone on the desk where the theatre was because my Google was saying, oh, you're standing on top of it. And they said, oh, go out the front door and then go down the stairs. It was packed. It is absolutely rammed. There was 1,480 people in that auditorium, and that is probably about 20-30% of the entire watch industry in Geneva. And it featured all of the players, all the major characters. You couldn't turn one way or another without seeing another luminary. There was Laurent Ferrier, Jean-Christophe Babin, Nick Folks, of course, who's very much involved in the organisation of the event, on the red carpet, co-hosting everybody. It was incredible. Guido Torini also giving a speech, Christophe Granger-Hare, everyone you could imagine was there. It was unreal. I felt very privileged. Luckily enough, I knew enough people to not feel totally out of place. But wow, what an event and a great setting. We took our seats. Obviously, we were in the cheap seats because we're not in the running to win a prize. But took a seat. Would you believe that Lydia Winters was came and sat next to us? That was just completely by coincidence. So the TRTS network was in full flow. That's Lydia from This Watch Life. If you don't listen to This Watch Life podcast, go and check that out as well. And she was wearing on her wrist, would you believe, an Otsuka Low Tech, which is a watch we'll talk about more momentarily. She was very thrilled with the result of the category in which he was nominated, obviously. Anyway, the event gets underway. We've got some nice little music. It's hosted this year by a French actress. First time she's hosted it. Previous years, it's been hosted by a comedian who I believe is having some reputational issues at the moment, shall we say. So he's been brushed aside and she's been brought in. She did not perform flawlessly. Couple of slip-ups. In fact, on 2 occasions, she announced the winner when she was supposed to be announcing the person who was going to be announcing the winner. So that was awkward, and that did disrupt the flow a little bit. She interjected with quite a lot of banter that was maybe a bit heavy-handed, made too much of a focus on herself rather than the event or the people winning, but otherwise she did an okay job. The whole thing was flawlessly executed apart from those faux pas, and very, very, very enjoyable. I was surprised. It wasn't the least bit boring. There was no beer or wine before we got underway, so everyone was clear-headed and very focused on the proceedings. And well, those proceedings threw up quite some surprises. And now we're going to go through the list, not in the order of the announcements on the night, because that was shuffled from the order in which the categories are arranged online. We're going to go through them in the order the categories are arranged online, so it matches up with our earlier episodes. So if you've not listened to that, go back and listen to that and listen to our predictions, because you're going to have a good laugh at our expense. And then go to gphg.org and check out the 2024 edition nominated timepieces so you can follow along with our discussion. Category number 1, the ladies category. Alon, what did you go for? Was it Tutti Frutti or is my mind deceiving me?
Yeah, I went for Tutti Frutti. A disclaimer for our listeners: if you hear the real time show for the first time or you're not aware with the game, so Rob and I usually play the game what we would pick, and often it's very subjective and it's something that we like. And in some categories, we'll say this will obviously not win. I did choose the Tutti Frutti. You chose the Hermes.
I did.
We kind of knew that both wouldn't win. Van Cleef and Arpels won with the Lady Jour Nuit. Rightfully so. I think so. So congratulations, VCA.
Yeah, I have no qualms with this whatsoever. I actually think there were maybe three potential valid winners in this category, and I think that they were the Van Cleef, which, to be honest, in my opinion, is the best of the watches. The Arnold and Sons got a lot of work, and I know that they've found favour with these styles of, I think, marquetry dials, one would say, before. So that would have been a legitimate choice, I think. And the Hermes, for me, would have been a very legitimate choice because it did something different in the category. The other three, especially the Parmigiani and the Chopard, although probably the two watches I'd be most likely to wear myself, just diamond-studded versions of existing watches. And the Fabergé, although nicely set, a nicely decorated dial, yeah, next to the Van Cleef, it's a miles and miles of miles behind.
And I wonder how much the jury deliberates about the fact of the awards in the year. So if they knew up front that Van Cleef and Arpels would have gotten three, and if that's the case, I would have given it to Arnold and Son if I was a jury member. But I have a feeling they isolate each category, and whatever the winner is the winner. And if one gets a lot, good for them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think is absolutely the case. I think that this idea of like passing out votes to make it fairer or more balanced is a nonsense and it's corrupt. If a brand produces the best watch in 10 categories, it should win 10 awards. I've no issue with that whatsoever. And Van Cleef really deserved this. I mean, the stupid thing is, because when we play the game against each other, we're trying to guess each other's picks, but it's an exercise in friendship more than it is an exercise in who's going to win this event for real on the night. Van Cleef is so far ahead of other brands in this category. Every so often, a brand will throw up a model that stands shoulder to shoulder with the Van Cleef, but they're one offs really for other brands. Van Cleef does this time and time and time again. And when you look at the other models that won, you'll see that they're basically the same watch with just three different dial animations and movements. Okay, there's a lot of technical differences, but it's the same case pretty much, like three times. And that's incredible.
That's incredible, and it reminds me of Rodolphe, who made amazing watches for Longines in that vibe with these floating lugs and a case affixation where there's a little gap in the middle, so you need special cut leather straps. Using that as a segue, Rob, let's go to the complications version of the ladies category. Again, Van Cleef and Arpels. This time, the Lady Arpels Brise de Et. I did pick that one. Do you think this was a rightful pick by the jury?
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Anderson Genève because I love that watch and I'm a bit biased. I always give Anderson a lot of love, although it's not a brand that I'm hugely close to personally. I've worked with him a couple of times, but this serene scene for me, the beautiful, sensitive colorway, was gorgeous. However, let's be frank, the Van Cleef is the best watch in this category. And to be fair, I didn't realize how good this watch was until the presentation on the night. So before the announcement is made of which watch has won which category, there's a little video played of the different pieces. And then when the watch is announced, there's a little more video played of the piece that won. And in those two videos, I got to see this dial in action for the first time. And I was like stunned how beautiful this is, how flawless the execution is, how much I would wear this watch. Now, you know, I like to play around with the gender expectations with my Bulgari Serpenti and diamond studded Hublots and whatnot. But this would be, without a doubt, the most unabashedly feminine watch that I'd ever strapped on my wrist, but I would gladly strap it on because it is a piece of art. 100% deserved to win. The best of the three Van Cleefs that won tonight, in my opinion, and a stunner I would happily be an ambassador for till the day I die.
Well said. And now, very interesting in my humble opinion, time only category. We have 6 watches, of which technically 4 have won, but the winner of the category, which both of us voted for Bernerol, but we had a feeling he could either win the Aguille d'Or.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because in this competition, you can win both, can't you, Rob?
Well, it has happened, but not for an awfully long time. In fact, not since the very first year of the GPHG back in 2001. And in that year, Vacheron Constantine's Lady Killer, aptly named, won both the Jewelry Watch Prize and the Aguilar d'Or Grand Prix for the best watch of the whole event. But thereafter, every Aguilar d'Or Grand Prix winner won only that award. So for me, that's pretty clear that they no longer allow the dual awarding to a category winner and the overall, which I find it a bit odd. I think that it kind of makes sense for a category winner to also be anointed the best of the fair, rather than one category clearly having to acknowledge, even though they won, they're really at least second best. And this is what we're discussing right now with the time only category, because even though Moser walked away with that award, the Lederer ended up winning the Chronometry Prize. We'll talk about the Berneron later on. And Chopard also won a prize, the Eco Innovation Prize, which is a new special award established this year.
So it's a very strange thing because there are 15 categories. There are 6 watches in each category. In addition to these 15 categories, there's another 5 or 6 prizes that are awarded to either watches or individuals for like being the best student or being lifetime achievement award or whatever as well. So if a watch doesn't win its category, it isn't necessarily out of the running to win something at some point throughout the night, which is a bit silly in some ways. When a watch wins the golden hand, let's say, it should automatically win whatever category it's in because it's the best watch.
Good question. Yeah, it's a good question. So this is something that we should do a deep dive on at our end. Let's run down quickly. So Berneron was competing in the time only together with Bernard Lederer, Chopard, which had different entries in this year's award ceremony. And in this category, it's the LUC Qualité Fleurier, Chapek with the Goutte d'Eau, Moser, who won this category with the Streamline Small Seconds Blue Enamel, which took me by surprise. And the last one is the Parmigiani Fleurier with the No Date Tonda PF Micro Rotor. So I voted for Berneron and said that although Lederer also is a very high contender for me, I hoped the Goutte d'Eau would have won if there was no Berneron. So I did not expect Moser. You?
Moser was my second choice, clearly.
Yeah, because it brought you to tears.
This is the watch that brought me to tears. I believe it's the best Moser ever made. And I stand by that. I think it's a perfect execution of the Streamliner. And, you know, the funny thing is, as we were at the event and the results were rolling in, it started to feel a bit like a shock. Like the whole evening was spun on its head. Because the first award, which is actually the last one we're going to discuss, threw everyone for such a loop. It felt like more controversial at the time than it looks now when you look back on the winners. I think when you look back on the winners now, I think that the Academy did a wonderful job here of balancing, because as you said, 4 watches of the 6 in this category went home with awards, and they all went home with the right awards, and they all deserve to be nominated, at least to receive awards, should I say. So it all came together in the end, and this was one of the essential pieces of that puzzle, because I think that Moser deserved this, given that Berneron won something else later on, something far more prestigious. We'll get to that in a moment. Next up, let's talk about the men's category. Now, this is a stupid category because, I mean, these watches are all over the map. But a men's category, I mean, it's too broad. Any of these watches could have been plucked and dropped into another category, and none of them the same one. So, Bulgari Octo Finissimo Ultra Platinum, Garrick S3 Mark II, Grand Seiko Manual Winding High Beat 36,000, beautifully named watch, nice one, Japan. Hajime Asayaka Tsunami Art Deco, and then Parmigiani Fleurier Toric Petit Second Platinum, Voutilainen KV20i Reversed. Catchy names. Alon.
I voted for the Garrick, although I was very intrigued by the Voutilainen. I believe you voted a lot of Parmigiani, but I don't believe in this category.
This was the one Parmigiani I did vote for this year.
Oh, you did? Okay, because I thought this was the exception that you don't like skeletonized watches, but you went for the Voutilainen. Okay, so I did not think the Parmigiani would have won, because if you need to create predictions based on historical results, you'll see that often the jury are watch geeks and they'll go for the more complicated things and they like métier d'art. So if this was a stock market, then we would have made a lot of money. But unfortunately, there is no money to be made, but a lot of fun. So that's also good. Are you happy with the Voutilainen award?
Well, yeah, how can you not be happy with the Vitalik in the world? I mean, Kari deserves whatever Kari gets. He is a modern master, an icon. He could retire tomorrow and his name would echo down the ages generations after he passed. It's a beautiful watch. It's great. Is it the best thing he's ever done? It's not my favourite thing he's ever done, but it's a Vitalik. Like, what can one say? My personal favourite to wear would be the Turek. I thought the Turek was having a moment. I thought it was its year. I thought it deserved some kind of credit in this award ceremony, but it wasn't to be, and the winner is more than worthy. It's almost a tradition that Vitalainen or Recep wins this category. So, yeah, they've been trading blows for years. Recepi not in contest this year. Vitalainen stepped in, and just like Messi versus Ronaldo in Ballon d'Or, once again walks home victorious. Something to do with being a short master, obviously. Okay, men's complication.
If I may, Rob, just quickly, it's interesting what you said about Kari. I totally agree. He's not even a modern master. He's been going at it quite some time, I believe more than 3 decades. So he's already a vintage master already. Now, what suddenly struck me, he is the master of dials. He loves guilloche. He buys all the machines that he can find. So
I know what's coming.
it's actually interesting that he went for a watch without a dial. So it's a nice contradiction within the brand. So I just had to get that off my chest. Dear listeners, if you are not that familiar with Voutilainen, Google it a bit because he is not a watch snob. He'll work with, let's say, Louis Erard and Schwartz Etienne, and he makes amazing dials also for lower price points. Okay, I'll shut up. Men's complication. Rob, I think you've won a ding, ding, ding point in this one because we had the Altia with the Purity Central Tourbillon, the Burn with the Mecca, again Chopard, this time with the LUC Strike 1, the Bethune DB with a cool name, kind of a grand complication, the Frank Miller with the Long Island Evolution Master Jumper, and last but not least, the Kazuo Maeda with the Earl Universel. Well, I know you don't have much to add, right? Rightful winner?
100%. We both did. You picked it as well, didn't you?
I didn't in the end, I
Did you
believe.
not?
No, I think I went for the Altia. Look how bad my memory is. We recorded this less than a week ago.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. Quick update before we just give Debatoon his flowers. I ran into John Byrne at the opening event, and he, as many of you may know, he suffered quite a serious motorcycle accident over the summer. All we knew about it was that Byrne were forced to withdraw from Geneva Watch Days. He was out riding a motorbike, I believe, for the first time, and there was a malfunction with the bike. He came off, had a serious head injury, and was in hospital in Paris. Luckily, one of only 8 machines that exist in the world that were capable of performing the operation necessary to save his life was present. He was saved, and he is fine. He is back to full health. He's got a gnarly scar on the left side of his head, but it's mostly behind his hair. You can't see a damn thing, but it's cool. He's fine. He's chatting. He's vibrant. He's lively. No effect to his personality. No negative ones anyway. He's actually very chipper. Happiest I've ever seen him. And he's well. So for people that care about this extended watchmaking family of ours, and for anyone that knows John, it was a huge relief to see him. And I just thought I'd deliver that bit of news because although Debatoon obviously deserves a lot of credit for this category, the best news of the night of the watchers featured here was that he was there. He was back on his feet, and he was very well. So
Happy to hear because both his wife and him are amazing people, indeed vibrant and jolly, and they radiate positivity into the watchmaking industry and they want to push the boundaries and do cool stuff. So we did miss them in August in Geneva. So happy to hear and looking forward to see them again during both Watches and Wonders and Geneva Watches 25.
I saw Claire, his wife, across the room first, and I made a beeline for her because I was like, I want to know if John's okay. I didn't see him, and it was a perfect cinematic reveal because he was sort of like behind me, and I was like, how is he? And she looked happy and well, so I was like, had a good feeling, and then she just sort of like pointed, and then there he was.
You know why you missed him? Because you didn't get your beers and wines before the show, so you weren't that focused.
Maybe that has something to do with it. Yeah,
Yeah. So
John can put them away as well. So we've had some good nights together.
so for our dear listeners, if most people need caffeine, Rob needs alcohol to function properly.
That's not true. You're making me sound much worse than I am. How dare you besmirch my good name? And the good name of Debatoon was far from besmirched. It was duly honoured. This was, in my opinion, a worthy winner of this category. A lovely watch and very much on brand for Debatoon. And yeah, I don't have much more to say about this one. I think that it was a fair one, a fair result.
I do want to give another shout out to Kazuo Maeda. I hope if he speaks English, I want him on the show because I love the fact that he didn't put his name on the dial and the font of the city discs on the bezel are delicious. And I actually want to have a philosophical discussion with Lee about this. And if
Okay.
you look at fonts and you haven't heard the episode on TRTS with Lee, I unfortunately had to miss that. But listened from beginning to end that Rob did an interview with him. It was a big deep dive on fonts. It was amazing. And pay attention to the cities he chose on the bezel. I'm not going to reveal them. Very interesting if you're into world timers.
Yeah. Good point. It's an interesting one. This it caused a lot of discussion actually. This particular watch because it's very clean, very pristine. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Bradley watch for the blind.
Yeah.
It has a very similar kind of like size distribution of the dial elements.
Very interesting. And obviously, I see a big nod to the old Patex.
Yeah. Also, yeah, a lovely size crown as well. I've got to say, I'm a big fan of a big crown. Interesting one.
Big crown, slim lugs. The only critique I have, obviously, is there is a dissonance in design. Everything is Art Deco-ish, font-wise, and then he opted for very 70s style of Roman numerals. Big no-no for me.
Yeah, the Lee that Alon is referring to there is Lee Yuen Rapati, who is Fear's head designer. We had an interview with him recently, and he was at the event as well, looking fine as always. And I really advocate people listen to that because it was one of the most fascinating deep dives into the design of fonts that I've ever heard, and I was privileged to be hearing it from the horse's mouth. Moving on to the iconic collection, this is the watch that probably got the biggest cheer on the night, to be fair. The winner of this category, it was competed by Breitling, Navitimer B12 Chronograph 41 Cosmonaut, Hublot Classic Fusion Original Yellow Gold 29 millimeters, the IWC Schaffhausen Big Pilot's Watch 43 Tourbillon Marcus Bühler, the Louis Vuitton Tambour, the Piaget Polo 79, and the Urwerk UR 102 Reloaded. Now, this may come as no surprise. The winner was the Piaget, and I think by the sounds of the room, it probably won at a canter. I was overjoyed. I gave out a big whoop when this was announced because I love this watch.
So do I. I did not vote for it pure to my dedication to Uurwerk, but rightfully so. And if the Uurwerk wasn't there, I would have chosen the Piaget. So we don't need to spend too much time on it. Because I believe the initial watch was a limited production. Is it still in production?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure if it is. I think it was limited and the price was very high, if I remember.
Yeah, 80K or something.
Something around those lines. Yeah, was it that much? God.
Yeah, it was. And imagine a TRTS collab full titanium.
Yeah, I'd love to do a full titanium quartz powered one. It actually was brought up in the acceptance speech, like the consideration of whether or not it should have been quartz. Very interesting. It is a watch that I think, because of its striking design, could carry that. It's a watch that shouldn't exist. When you look at how the case is put together, and if you want to see this, go to the Piaget website, go to the page about the Polo 79. There's a great little video, just shows how many components there are, how it's almost like it's like how badly designed it is in a way. Like it's a nightmare. Like I don't even know how this thing is water resistant at all. The case walls are like paper thin. It's just stunning. It's bold, it's ambitious, it's like nothing else. It's what we want from watches, and it's great to have a modern iteration of this brilliant design back in play. And hopefully they'll make more iterations of it so more people can get their hands on them. Now, moving on. Actually, before we move on, the iconic collection for me was the best lineup of 6 watches. I thought that every single piece in this collection deserved to be there. I don't think the Breitling was the perfect example of a Navitimer, but the Navitimer is Breitling.
Well, a cosmonaut is iconic. The only one I wasn't too keen on was the Louis Vuitton Tambo. So I respectfully disagree with you. The best category was obviously the challenge category, and that's the last one. So let's get our speed up. Your favorite complication?
Oh,
Well,
stop
I
it.
can't make that joke anymore because it's kind of getting into your bloodstream tourbillons. Chopin LUC 1860 Flying Tourbillon. Daniel Roth, the tourbillon souscription. Moser again with the streamliner tourbillon skeleton. Remy Coles, tourbillon atelier. And a little spoiler, he did get an award, but not in this category. Sartori Bilar, which I believe both of us voted for.
Indeed.
And Voutilainen again with the tourbillon 20th anniversary. So I said 3 decades for Kari. Kari obviously works longer, but his independent brand that has his name on it is only 2 decades young. So in that sense, you're right, Rob. So the winner is the Daniel Roth. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I think we kind of saw this result coming from a mile off. I mean, Daniel Ruff has been in the news. LVMH are extremely proud of its renaissance. It is an iconic watch itself. I don't feel in any way controversial in making that statement. It's got a case shape like few other watches, and this design language is exactly what a brand should be going for. You know what it is immediately. It wasn't my favorite iteration of the Daniel Roth concept, but I think it's a worthy winner. And yeah, the Sartori Billard is one that we both picked because it's just a gorgeous looking watch. But in terms of prestige and execution, the Daniel Roth is a brilliant balance, and I think a rightful winner.
I want to do a little intermezzo game. What do you think Jean Arnaud, which I believe is brilliant and the right guy in the right position? And it's interesting actually that yesterday his brother in New York, Alexandre, announced he's going to the spirits division of LVMH. So after Rimowa, Tiffany and Co., he's going from New York back to France. So that's interesting. He's not going into the watch industry, which I kind of expected. Jean is the youngest one, and he is doing an amazing job. What do you, Rob, think is going to be the next Daniel Roth watch? Are they going to do another tribute piece? Or do you think he's going to push the envelope and put a 21st century Daniel Roth watch on the map?
Yeah, I can only speculate, but I think that if I were relaunching a brand like this, I would come with something striking of this nature. But then the next piece I would release would be much simpler. It would probably be time only, to be honest, with a slightly more modern design, maybe a hour minute dial at 12 and then just a sub-seconds at 6, just to sort of create a more accessible entry point, something a bit more universal that the brand can then build a complicated collection around. I would like to see that. Will it happen? Maybe some métier d'art on the dial, maybe an enamel dial or something along those lines, but something clean and clear that's focused on the case shape and establishing a core collection that the brands will use as a springboard for future things. What do you think?
So I've been thinking a lot about this. And last week, I've been thinking about it because we've been flooded also with Universal Genève speculations. Is it evident that they're going to do a pole router? Most probably. Are they going to bring back the compacts versions, bicompacts, tricompacts, etc.? Most probably. Would I if I have owned Universal Genève? Hell yes. But the question are we is the lemon squeezed already dry with vintage inspired watches? And one brand that I think does it best is Zenith. They have a beautiful balance between their heritage and the future, so modernity. And again, if I had Daniel Roth in my portfolio, of course I would have bring back the success hits, right? So the hit records. But at a certain point, how much can you ride that bandwagon? So I would have created a duality in my brand. And I hope Universal Genève, under the helm of George Kern, does that as well.
Personally, I can't wait to see a new pole router. We saw some pretty convincing leaks this morning on the TRTS network of a new lineup of pole routers, and by the looks of things, if this leak is to be believed, and it does look pretty genuine, we're not going to see any changes at all to the pole router. We're just going to see it executed with modern machining techniques, and it looks divine. It is what I want from the brand. I don't need them to mess around with it too much. We've all been baying for the return of Universal Genève for years, and it looks like Kern has, got it by the scruff of the neck and just done the sensible thing and brought us what everyone really wants to see. And I think it'll be a modern classic, and I think it'll sell. Price point will be interesting. From what I understand from behind the scenes, they're hoping to position it as a direct competitor to JLC. So we should expect that these pieces will be a tick higher in price point than Breitling. I'm guessing they're going to be in the mid-teens or even maybe a little higher. So that might disappoint some people that would like a pole router to be 5K. Wouldn't we all like a pole router to be 5K? I can't wait to see it. I can't wait for the reveal and the confirmation or otherwise of the leak we've seen. And let's hope that they use that, as we've suggested Roth might, as a springboard to greater things. So, moving on to the calendar and astronomy category. This was contested by Anton Suhanov with the chronotope, Frederic Constant with the slimline perpetual calendar manufacture designed by Peter Speak, H. Moser and C. Endeavour Chinese calendar, the IWC Schaffhausen Portuguese Eternal calendar, the Laurent Ferrier Classic Moon Silver, and the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda PF Hijiri perpetual calendar. Who won, Alon?
Well, again, the IWC, ding, 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 surprise, 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 won the Aguille d'Or. So it seems that they did those first, and then if you get picked, you're disqualified in the subcategory. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah.
So it's hands down that IWC should have won this category. They didn't, so it went to Laurent Ferrier with the Classic Moon Silver. Rightfully so. Yeah. Did it surprise me? Yes. You?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this one kind of slipped under the radar for us because we were so laser focused on the IWC because we believed it was the runaway favourite for this category, and I suppose we were proven right in a sense. It did walk away with the top prize, which was deserved. I think it's interesting because obviously we had Burner on in our minds for that piece, and we'll talk about what Sylvain won later on, but in light of how everything panned out, like I said earlier on, like when you look at the winners now in the cold light of day, it was a brilliantly managed event. And the Laurent Ferrier, we weren't talking about it, were we? We looked at the Anton, we looked at the Freddie C, we dismissed the Moser and the Parmigiani. We love the Parmigiani, but it's been entered before, I think, with a red dial last year or something, so probably not going to win. And Ferrier is one of those guys, like Voutilainen, who basically wins an award every year, and it's a good thing to pay lip service to one of the modern greats. So yeah, fair enough. Beautiful watch, brilliantly executed, and graciously received as ever from the great man himself. Mechanical exception category. Now, this was an interesting one. We had the Beauvais 1822 Recital 28 Prowess 1, the Bulgari Octo Finissimo Ultra Kosk, the Hermes Assaut du Atelier, the MB&F HM11 Architect, the Piaggio Altiplano Ultimate Concept Tourbillon, and the Ulysse Nardin Freak S Nomad, which we both picked, unsurprisingly, as big fans of Ulysse and advocates for the Freak as one of the most significant pivotal watches in the history of watchmaking. Really, in my opinion, was the first great modern timepiece that kicked off this exploration of haute horlogerie that we now have enjoyed for the last 20 years or so. But the winner of this category, do you want to announce it? Because I can barely bring myself to say it.
Well, I really think that they deserve it. I'm actually happy. You know why?
No idea.
It's the only one that's independent in this category of 6. Well, that's not true. Sorry, I stand correct. MBNF is independent. Ulysse Nardin thinks they're independent, but it's a group of 2 brands.
Well, they're pretty independent, really, though, aren't they? Come on.
Well, yeah. Okay, let's have a discussion about that. But on another time, maybe in a Q&A episode. But you know what? The underdog here is Beauvais. And I guess the one that gets the least love from collectors, or the collectors I know, is Beauvais 1822. So the recital 28 prowess has won. And congratulations, Beauvais, because I am happy for you. And I've said I would have considered it just the crown. I mean, it's a banger.
It drew an audible gasp in the room when this piece was announced as the winner. I think many people, rightly or wrongly, because let's face it, it's an incredible timepiece. Like, it's a brilliant machine. But I think most people probably had this in sixth position in terms of likely winners. I think I did. Just in terms of the brands it's going up against.
Yeah. I had Piaget in 6.
Okay, fair.
We both voted Ulysse Nana Freak I believe, because we simply love the freak. But do we actually think that Ulysse would have won? I didn't. I think the Hermes was a real candidate because it's a stunning minute repeater with a 3D tourbillon.
Yeah. And Hermes gets a lot of love. Hermes
Yeah.
won a couple of awards last year, and so I
Yeah.
kind of expected this to be a possibility for them. But for
Yeah.
me, I think the Freak should have won. I just do.
Yeah, but it's not that new, is it?
Well, it's not that new.
The Nomades is a new case, but the caliber is not new. And I think the Beauvais is a new caliber.
Okay, fine. If that's all it needs, then fine. But what about the MBNF?
Oh, yeah. I think that they were rather bummed out. But I believe the jury said MBNF has gotten so much awards, they can miss one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was one of the categories where, like, the people presenting the award very much laboured the point that the jury was impartial. And then Beauvais wins, and everyone's like, okay.
Maybe they did Russian roulette.
I don't know. I mean, the way it's supposed to work is you've got the jury members voting like in private. They're not like, they would discuss their choices beforehand, but then they would vote in private. And it just, I don't know, maybe it was really close. Maybe there was like 5 votes for every model in this collection or 4 votes for every model in the collection. Beauvais won by a couple, So I don't know. Fair play. Big brands, big pieces, and like you say, independent. Very much supported by our good friends at 289 Consulting. So yeah, congrats to the team over there for doing another stand-up job. But yeah, this one shocked me. I'm not going to lie. It did shock me. I thought that Ulysse would have taken it, or MBNF next, Hermes third. I think then I would have had Piaget and Bulgari like knocking around 4th and 5th. I don't really care for either, but they're both known for exceptional thinness. And the Beauvais, I just don't think it's very attractive. It's impressive. I just don't like it, but fair play.
It also reminds me a bit of Jacob & Co. Could have been a Jacob & Co. watch.
It could. Or a Harry Winston. It's got some sort of like Harry Winston vibes, somehow. All right, moving on to the chronograph, my favourite complication. Not really my favourite category of watches this year, to be fair, though. We had the Angelus Instrument de Vitesse, the Louis Vuitton Recepi LVRR01 chronograph as Donnery, Massina Lab chronograph Monopoussoir Sylvain Pinot and Massina Lab, Parmigiani Fleurier Toric split seconds chronograph, the Tag Heuer Monaco split seconds chronograph, and the Zenith Chronomaster original triple calendar. So, Massina Lab won this. William Massina and Sylvain Pinot accepted the awards together. It was quite an amusing acceptance speech. Sylvain's a great character and always good value for a laugh or two. I think it probably deserved it, did it not?
William is also a great character, super sarcastic and dry humor. I love the guy. I am super happy for both of them because they are the smallest of the 6. They teamed up, so there are 2 that are collabs. Vuitton is a giant and Rexepi is a legend. I thought they would win, honestly. So I'm a bit surprised. There are 3 LVMH watches in here. Angelus is a citizen group. Parmigiani is independent. I'm happy that the smallest in turnover and volume of production won. So rightfully so. Yeah, and I'm happy for the guys because I love both of them.
Yeah, they deserved it, I think. Fair enough. I mean, I went for the Zenith. I can't remember what you picked.
I threw a hardcore curveball at you. The Parmigiani Toric split seconds.
Yeah, that's a fit watch, though. That is nice. I still prefer the time-only Toric, but that's a lovely piece. Right, onto the sports category. This one also caused a bit of a shock on the night, and we'll address that in a moment. First watch up for consideration was the IWC Schaffhausen. Oh my God, the name of this watch was enough to disqualify it.
Just skip it. Just skip it.
It's like 3
it's
lines long.
So they didn't win.
Okay, the Ming 37.09 Bluefin, Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda PF Sport Chronograph, which was my pick for that gorgeous colorway. The Singer Reimagined Dive Track, the Tudor Pelagos FXD Chrono Cycling Edition, and a Zenith Defy Extreme Diver. Tell us more about this category, Alan.
We got thrown off. We both didn't guess each other's pick. There are dive watches in here, and we've been saying that several times that we believe there should have been a separate dive collection. There are 3 chronographs in here. I voted for the Singer. You actually picked the Ming, I think. No, sorry, Parmigiani Fluid. You took it because of your super color powers. You're like a superhero that sees color. You're the Aura King. I call it. From now on, I'm going to call you the Aura King with a porn star mustache.
Oh, wow, that's a full title. Sounds like a serial killer.
Yeah. So this is all over the place. It's a mishmash. And we've said that Tudor always wins. It's actually interesting. This is the first year they did not win. Usually they win the Petite Agile category. They entered also with a chronograph here, so the FXD. I am not surprised because I think rightfully so that Ming has won the award in the sports category. It's interesting because I believe this is their first real sports watch. And well, I love Ming as a person. I love the brand. I love the people behind the brand. So I am super happy for them. It's amazing what Singer has done. I'm actually a bit surprised that they did not win.
Yeah, I hate to correct you here, but there's 4 chronographs, and the one you neglected was Singer, because obviously it doesn't have subdials, but it is a chronograph. Quite remarkably so, actually. It is a chronograph that tells you when you're allowed to dive again, or when you're allowed to fly after diving, and when you should chill before and after diving, I think. So it's a really clever piece. We love Marco Baracino. He's been on the show. He's a good friend, and I really think it should have won. I think it's got GPHG written all over it. The Ming is a great piece, but these 2 watches don't seem like they should be in the same category. Occasionally that happens. When you've got a category as broad as sport, and in fairness, even if we had the dive category, they'd both be in there because they're 2 of the 3 divers in this collection. But it feels like the Singer, that might have done better. It might have had a better chance of winning something like the Audacity Prize if that didn't go elsewhere, and we'll discuss that momentarily. But Ming was a popular winner on the night. Obviously, more people in the audience probably own a Ming than maybe any of the other watches on this list, maybe bar Tudor and Zenith. But Ming's very affordable, obviously done very well to touch several price points. And this is a nice entry-level piece for the collection. Extremely comfortable, excellently executed as always, and lovely crowns. I love the size of those crowns. I think they're appropriately sized. So well done to Ming and the team. And hopefully we'll get them back on the show soon to discuss this win and what they have coming up in the future. Right, next up we've got the jewellery category. 6 watches were entered into this category, and so all 6 progressed to the final round of voting, each with a good chance of winning. Bulgari Fenice High Jewelry Secret Watch, the Chopard Laguna High Jewelry Secret Watch, the Damiani Margarita Desert Garden Secret Watch, the Dior Montre Grande Soirée de Abbé, and the Gucci G Timeless Planetarium, and my choice, the porn star mustache loving Piaget Aura High Jewelry Watch. Oh, funny, it's called the Aura High Jewelry. It's like my whole nickname and vibe in one watch, but it didn't win. And neither did the Bulgari. The Bulgari got a huge cheer when it was announced. I felt it was going to skip towards the win, but it did not. The winner was the Chopard Laguna High Jewelry Secret Watch, which to me looks like the sort of thing Ariel the Little Mermaid would wear. What about you, Alon?
That was my solid second pick and was very, very close to the Bulgari. You thought I would go for the Damiani, but I found it too cliche with the daisies.
Okay.
Although it's cool, it has 2 watches. But real pieces of art are the Bulgari and Chopard. My gut feeling says they just flipped the coin, and then they said with ratio, oh, Bulgari has won too many. Let's give it to an independent brand like Chopard. But rightful winner, in my humble opinion. If they would have given it to Gucci or Dior, I would have eaten my hat.
So I learned something at the event. One of the people I was at the event with is a very accomplished jeweler, and she told me that there's a difference between joaillerie and bijouterie.
Correct.
I didn't know this. Okay, so you probably know, but for the sake of our listeners, I'll try and summarize it as best I can, but basically with bijouterie, The stones follow an existing form, but with jewellery, the form follows the stones. So the Bulgari, the Damiani, well, especially the Bulgari, and also maybe the Chopard, you could say they're all examples of high jewellery. The other three, interestingly, are really more examples of bijouterie, which maybe should be a category on its own. I mean, I love the Piaget. It's basically just stones and a watch, but it's in the form of a watch, and the stones are second in priority to the way this thing looks. But the Bulgari, I mean, that's a piece of art.
Yeah. So what she also means is often jewelers you have. So it's like a chef. Do you write and do you create a dish, write the recipe, and go do grocery shopping, or do you just look in your cupboard, see what ingredients are in house, and then you serve up a dish? So what you see Bulgari, they started with the aquamarine on top, and from there they created all the other designs, and its form follows function, and that's what she means. But in daily terms today in French, bijou is more of jewelry, and joaillier is fine jewelry. In Dutch we have the segmentation of juwelen and sieraden. Sieren in Dutch means to decorate yourself,
Uh-huh.
so that can be anything. And juwelen is juweel, and juweel is a gem. So that means it's precious. So either with precious or none. And that's the differentiation we do in Dutch. And in English, we just add the word fine. And in French, they have two different words for it.
Very interesting. Oh, so we learned something through that category.
So joaillier is also a jeweler, and bijouterie is not per se a jeweler.
I am going to read more about this because I find it really, really fascinating. Of course, I find everything fascinating. It's my go-to word. Artistic crafts. Anderson Genève Jumping Hours Black Jade Stone. The Chopard LUC Quattro Spirit 25 Year of the Dragon. Hermes Asso Chorus Stellarum. Louis Vuitton Escale Cabinet of Wonders Snakes Jungle. Great name. Piaget Glowing Weave Watch. Anne Van Cleef and Appel Lady Appel Jeu Enchanté. This is another one of Van Cleef's wins. Obviously, it is, again, the worthy winner. I think I picked the Anderson Genève because I'm biased towards that beautiful jump hour complication. What do you think about this? Any comments?
Well, no. I mean, I,
No.
I, 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 I don't remember what I voted for, but actually, it could be that I voted for the Van Cleef and Arpels. I love the fact that the hands of the minutes and hours come out of a radiating sun. And I gave Chopin, I guess, a second vote. And I love Anderson Genève as well. I didn't vote for them twice, but in this artistic craft, there is a lot of mechanical artistry, but just using a slab of very beautiful jade is not artistic enough for me. That's why they didn't get a vote for me. I love the engraving of the dragon. And fun fact, one of the best engravers in Switzerland is a Dutchman. Did you know that, Rob?
Well, funnily enough, I met him at the Grand Duke, but didn't know I'd met him until the day after. I was playing darts. I was playing round the board with my new friend Thomas, a Dane. I was going to say a fellow Dane. Then I'm not Danish, but I'm getting more and more Danish by the day. And we were playing round the board. 1, 2, 3, 4. Doubles you can skip ahead, trebles you can skip ahead up until 6 points, and then you have to ignore the trebles. And I was explaining this to Case Engelberts.
Yeah, very good. Kees Engelbart.
Engelbart's right. He was standing behind me. Him and his missus wanted to play darts, and he was jonesing for a game, and he was trying to hurry me up a bit. And he was like, "What are you playing?" So we're playing round the board. He'd never heard it before. He's a Dutchman, but his accent was so good. I actually didn't know he was Dutch at the time. If I'd known he was Dutch, then I would have been not unsurprised the fact that he wanted to get on the darts board. And I would have made way for him quicker, especially if I'd known who he was. But we talked about this for a while, and I think he had a go at playing it himself. And then the Grunefeld brothers turned up, and Bart and Tim were there, not playing darts, but partaking in their sport of choice, as in making pints disappear very quickly. And a couple of collectors were there with Grunefeld Principias on, and we were chatting to them. I saw one of the collectors the following night, last night, and he was telling me who it was I'd been talking to. And I believe he did the Chopard, right?
I don't know if he engraved this one, but he's very modest. He has his own watches, but I've seen him actually in the Netherlands a few weeks ago when he was at the 50th anniversary of Christian van der Klauw. And he's done an amazing few dials for them as well. But he's very modest. He's actually not looking for more work. and he has a lot of friends, and he helps out friends. But I'm not quite sure if he did this one. It wouldn't surprise me because it seems his signature. But he is very good in doing extreme depths in engraving. So, and this dragon has depth, but I actually don't know.
I don't know. I was looking at his Instagram the other day, and I have a feeling that that this was on there. But since we can't corroborate it immediately, we'll have to come back and maybe get him on the show. He was a very nice guy, very
He's
nice
lovely,
actually. Yeah,
lovely, very
I was
modest.
impressed.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. What about that? You go out to the pub. Obviously, if you go out to the pub in Glossop or Dresden, you don't expect to be surrounded by like watchmaking legends. So you never sort of think to ask, oh, are you in the watch industry? It's just not a question you normally ask people. In the Grand Duke, you should just assume that 90% of the people there, especially around a fair or an event, are someone that you should probably get to know. But yeah, glad to have met him, and look forward to meeting him again. Right, the Petit Aiguille category, one of the hottest contested categories. 30 watches were entered into this category initially, and only 6 made it through to the final round of voting. Of course, I looked at the 30 watches nominated in this category, and honestly, you could have picked 4 unique selections of 6 that all would have been justifiable for the final runoff. And the watch that should have won this category didn't make it to the final 6. And I'm not going to say the Arcanaut. I'm going to say the Toledano and Chan. The Toledano and Chan not only should have been in the final 6, not only should it have won this category, but it could really have been a contestant for something as prestigious as maybe not the Golden Hand, but at least the Audacity. It would have been fighting tooth and nail with the winner of the Audacity prize that we haven't yet announced, although you've probably figured out who it is. But how did Toledano and Chan not get through to this final 6? I do not get it. Explain it to me. Okay, that's the right answer.
I don't even know where to start. And again, rightfully so, Freddy Constant with his Conscon, yes. Amida, yes, although it's just a tribute watch, I mean, it's an old one, is the Tudor GMT 58 a Petit Aiguille worthy? No.
No.
Shh. The funny thing is, I have not paid enough attention to the Perpetual one. I know it was Renaud Tixier behind it. And a little spoiler, David and I interviewed the CEO, Michel Nieto, of Renaud Tixier. Hopefully, if we're lucky, it will be the next episode if you hear this one, or one after that. Highly, highly recommended. 2 scoops in that episode. So listen to it. I'm actually surprised that didn't win.
Yeah, me too. I picked it. I actually thought it was a nailed on winner in this category. And look, I'm not saying all of these watches don't deserve to be in this category. I'm saying that when you've got those 30 pieces in front of you, you start with a Toledano and Chan, and then you build your 5 pieces afterwards. I'd have taken the Arcanaut, obviously, but there are so many good pieces. Let me just pull up. I've got them here. I saved them all the other day. Let's pull up the 30 pieces that were nominated for this. Get a load of some of these pieces that didn't make it to the final 6.
But while you're pulling that up, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I own a Toledano and Chan B1. So, and it's spectacular. And I've seen the responses at Geneva Watch Days of industry insiders, including you.
Yeah.
While Phil and Alfred rocked up with their watches, one prototype, one is the one they launched. And the reactions were crazy. It was nice to see in real life.
It's even better than it looks on screen. And what they've got coming in the future is just a step beyond what they've already done. And I didn't think that was possible, but yeah, what do I know? So these are the watches that were put forward for consideration for the Petit Aiguille category. We had the Amida that made it, the Anodain Model 3 Method, gorgeous, gorgeous watch. Okay, even though Anodain's one of my favorite brands, maybe they wouldn't have made the final 6 of my choices because there's so many to choose from. The Aonic Automat Black, new brand from Berlin. I'm working closely with them already as well, and they are doing some cool stuff. Everything in that watch is made by Damasco, totally proprietary caliber, beautiful case, like a UFO on the wrist. Then there's the Arcanaut Arc 2 Havender, you know how I feel about that one. The Bayard Chapter 4.7 Onyx Tourbillon, Behrens Orion 1. That is a Petite Aiguille category watch. That is what we're looking for in this category. It's exceptional. Then you got the Nala Neram Kalam Minutes Timer, a cool chronograph. Aorus ProPilot Caliber 400 Laser, Reservoir Monza Design 325Y, Sarpaneva watches Moomin, really popular. People love Sarpaneva, people love Moomins even more, so that one could have made it through. The Toledano and Chan B1, best watch in the business at this price point for me. The Tudor Black Bay 58 GMT, boring and disappointing if you want my 2-word review. ID Genève watches Circular C. ID Genève have obviously been very popular since they launched. They're doing great things with recyclable and sustainable materials. This watch has got a healing carbon bezel, so if you put it under a hairdryer, it heals if you ding it. It's incredible. Kadoke 3 Salmon, well, that one made it through. It didn't just make it through, it won. Spoiler. Lang 1943, that's a gorgeous watch. It's maybe a bit basic, but it is a beautifully done thing. The Lebois & Co. Heritage Chronograph 324.406 from my good friend Tom van der Hoylik, and that I had on my wrist in New York the other day. That is a piece that if you've not seen it in real life, go and get one on your wrist. That is what vintage reimaginings should be. It is a stunner. It's a heritage piece. You can hand that down to your kids. They would always associate you with a watch of class and elegance if that were your pick. The Louis Arad, Le Regulator, Louis Arad and Cedric Jonner Mauve, Morph. I don't know what's wrong with me sometimes. Massina Lab Archetype 1. I mean, this is crazy, right? Cornell Watch Company, Fears, Brunswick, Aurora, Frederick Constant made it, Phil and Mary made it, GOS, Sarek Frost, cool as hell, bit of representation for the Scandinavians. A lot of Scandinavian brands in here that didn't make it through to the final. You could have had almost a Scandinavian run-up. Holthenrichs Watches Lab Series 1. How is this not in the top 6? This is an incredibly impressive piece. This should definitely have been there. Imagine the diversity and the creativity you could have had if you had the Toledano and Chan, this, and the Arcanaut and other ones in there against each other. It would have been incredible. Breitling Aerospace B70, Bremont Terra Nova, Karlzukian's own Belvedere. Love the Belvedere. This is the best thing Karlzuki's ever done. If you've not got it on your wrist, go and try it. It's comfortable and it's versatile and it's clever and cute. Cute and kooky. Christian van der Klaar Ariadne made it through. The Christopher Ward London, the 12X. I mean, I saw Adrian there tonight and the Christopher Ward gang. They were having a lovely time and all smiles regardless of the fact this hadn't even made it through to the final 6. But how? It's one of the most talked about watches in the world. The CIGA, Sigurd Design Mount Everest. And that's it. That's 30 pieces. Incredible stuff. What a lineup. And like I said, the winner was Kadoke.
Bonkers. Congrats to the Kodoka fam. Wonderful people. Amazing artists, amazing watchmakers. So good for them. What I do like, there are more and more non-Swiss brands that win because there are two trends going on. I was reading an amazing article in the Financial Times today, and bang, I almost fell off my chair. Beautiful, handsome guy with a porn star mustache. Can you guess who was on the front page of the FT.com?
Is it on the front page of the FT? It's not on the front page, is it?
Yeah, if you could scroll down to the bottom of all the subsections, and if you go to the jewelry and watch section, then we see, boom, Rob Nuts together with Black Badges and Anders. And what a quote. If the Swiss made all the shoes, we would all be wearing just 3 types of shoe, and they would all be brown. Rob Nuts / Arcanaut. And the funny thing is, what is Rob wearing? Brown shoes. But it says something. And we see that it's becoming more international. You see that more prizes are going to non-Swiss brands. And one thing that was trending yesterday, our dear friend Frank Gelen, the founder of Monochrome Watches, he handed out an award, and his little speech went viral on Instagram Reels, where he gave a unsubtle hint to the organization not to do the whole show in French. So
yeah, that didn't go down too well in the room, I don't think.
No, it didn't.
It was deathly silent. I think 50% of the people there absolutely agreed with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think anyone really wanted to laugh. We were all laughing on the inside. It was funny.
So yeah, no, well, it wasn't funny. And the funny thing is, on the regrams last night, it almost went viral, and that is an amazing segue to the challenge category. We spent a lot of time on this. I think we got most excited about this one. I said this is the first time ever I want to own all six. I own already two of the six, and we really had no idea who was going to win because we had the Beau with a Seconde Française, the CW with the C1 Moonface, Ferlamarni with a Disco Verde, the Colloquium with Project One, Otsuko Lotek with the number 6, and the Space One Tellurium. I don't even know. I don't remember what I voted. You voted for the Space One, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you went for Colloquium.
Yeah. Am I happy Otsuko Lotek won? Yes. Mostly because he's Japanese and he built a module on top of a standard workhorse caliber. The only thing I'm a bit disappointed about it, and I forgot to say this during our previous recording, and it was in the back of my mind, but now that I'm looking at it, the first thing that comes to mind is the Manometra by Giuliano Mazzuoli. Do you remember those watches, Rob?
Oh yeah, yeah, I do actually. I was actually quite a big fan of this for some time during my training. Yeah, it does have a ring of that. Absolutely, it does. I think it's the sort of case-shaped, knurled crown, the lugs. Yeah, there's a lot that calls back to it. Look, this is a deserving winner. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Christopher Ward Moonphase in competition with the other five pieces. I think it's a nice watch. I keep saying, but I don't think it holds a candle to the other five. If any of the other five had won, I would have said, chapeau, you deserve it. But it was a shock this on the night, when we finally discovered that Colloquium, who I think was probably the favourite in the room, and Space One, who I think would be, for me, is like the logical winner, maybe one of the most talked about watches of the year, when we realised they hadn't won. And like I say, Lydia was wearing this exact watch. It's actually Vu's. Vu had lent it to her for the night, but what a piece to be wearing. She yelped and screamed and clapped and cheered when this was announced, much to the amusement of everybody around her, because it was the first award read out on the evening, strangely enough. And that set the tone. I think Lydia kind of broke the ice in the room because there was a lot of whooping and cheering thereafter. But prior to that, it had all been very staid and professional. But that was a stunner, a nice, heartwarming acceptance speech. And yeah, let's hope that he does more great things in the future. This watch retails for about €2,600. It's a lot of watch for that money.
I totally agree, and I'm going to get one. I believe there is a waiting list for that watch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So congrats, and I love the fact how international GPHG is becoming. Leaves us with six more. We gave away the Aguille d'Or. So do you want to start with that, Rob, or should we leave that to the end?
Yeah, well, let's just talk about it. The IWC Eternal Calendar won the top prize on the evening. I think we're all in accord that it's a very worthy winner, and it was lovely to, see a watch that began its journey really all the way back in the 80s with Kurt
85.
Klaus.
Yeah,
85. That's as old as me.
1985. Yeah, when Kurt
Crazy.
Klaus by hand drew the perpetual module on top of a Valjoux 7750. They teamed up when the investors pooled Jaeger LeCoultre to IWC and then revived Lange & Söhne. So there was a lot of intellectual property being shared, especially on the 4-digit year calendar display. And what I love, besides the fact that obviously Kurt Klaus pushed for setting the perpetual with a single crown, that's what really makes the IWC perpetual stand out. Today we'll see the Portugueser with a 5,000 caliber, so that's their 7 days power reserve. Technically 8.5 days, but they capped it at 168 hours to preserve precision. It's a banger, both in size, thickness, but also capabilities. They added a power reserve to that, so that's what you'll see at the 3 o'clock position. I love the fact I owned several Portuguese perpetual calendars. Love the watch. I let them go because they're simply too big and too thick. Change of taste. But I love the fact that they push the boundaries because I do not know of any other perpetual calendar that has been produced in serial that can calculate mechanically beyond the year 2499. Do you, Rob?
No. And I don't need many of them in my life, to be fair, because it's a ridiculous complication, but it is absolutely the kind of ridiculousness that we all get excited about, because that's what watchmaking is. And it was a brilliant acceptance speech from Chris Granger Hare. He's clearly a very passionate, committed, driven man, a brilliant leader of the brand, and humble in that moment of triumph. And talking of one legend of Kurt Klaus, let's talk about the special jury prize that went to Jean-Pierre Hagman, a man that had retired, originally planned to go and sit on his boat and enjoy his latter years in peace, but has been pulled back into the watchmaking industry to share his decades of experience with the younger generation. It was a very heartwarming speech. He's a cute little guy. He looks a bit like freshly shaved Papa Smurf. And he had a great jacket on, and he just commanded the adoration of the entire crowd with his like warmth and his genuineness. He read off a list of names. Everyone's hands were red raw by the end of it because we applauded every name, and it was a long list. And then as he was leaving the stage, he turned to the crowd and he just stood, raised his arms aloft, and held this GPHG award high. It was like he'd won the World Cup. It was brilliant. He got an absolute roar.
And rightfully so. Yeah, and rightfully so. Because for those that don't know who Jean-Pierre Hagman is, he might be the best watch case maker alive. And Akrivia, so Rexepi, pulled him back in. So that's what you're referring at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he started his career before the days of CNC, so he knows how to make a case one way or the other. Incredible guy.
Amazing.
Talking of incredible people, I mean, Bernard Lederer is a different kind of incredible person, a fearsome intellect, and one of the true modern greats. And if you don't believe me, just ask him. He'll tell you himself. He won the Chronometry Prize, which is 3-time certified observatory chronometer, which is an example, I think, of just his supreme command of the craft and his confidence in his own ability, which, as we've said many times, is maybe not peerless, but there is only a handful of people in the world that can hold a torch to Lederer's work. And glad to see this honoured.
And again, I would have eaten my second hat if this wouldn't have won the chronometer watch, because this is the watch that, and if you haven't heard the Geneva Watch Days review episodes that Rob and I did, we had a masterclass. We've hung out with his dear wife 2 times, Eva, yeah, lovely. Geneva Watches, I had double the pleasure because you and I, during one of our visits, got sat down on the sofa like 2 little school kids, and we didn't get lectured in the negative sense of the word, but in the positive sense of the word. We got a masterclass from the master, just a private session. He sat us down, walked us through the troubles he had and the resistance from the observatories that he wanted to put on a pedestal, and they didn't let him put it on a pedestal, which was weird. So shame on you, all 3 observatories. But the philosophy that goes into it, listen to the episode, please. It's an amazing watch, not only design-wise, but the thoughts and the philosophy and the ideas and the tributes he did. I love the watch. Just because of that, I would have bought it, even if it was a fugly watch, but it's not. So I'm very happy they won. Congrats, Bernard and Eva. And the second time I hung out with them was at the event in Geneva Watches in the evening. We had great fun. So lovely people, and rightfully so that they've won. So, Rob, going from there to somebody I really, really need on the show ASAP. I've said that in the previous episode. Remy Coles. He won the Horological Revelation Prize with the Tourbillon Atelier.
He did indeed, and this was one of the slips of the presenter. She revealed him when she should have been announcing his announcer. So that was a bit of an anticlimax, but I think he took it in his strides, and he's obviously very popular with the watch community, and I think there's a lot of good things to come from him. It's a pretty stellar entry into his own portfolio, and yeah, we should get him on the show. I'm sure it'd be an interesting interview. As would Carl Friedrich Schuffler, the CEO of Chopard, who won an award for the Eco Innovation Prize, LUC Qualité Fleurier, which was a new category, I believe. And Waco, presented it, explained the thinking behind the category, and one that I think the industry definitely was right to bring in. Great to see Chopard recognized for their recycled materials and ethically sourced precious metals and stones.
I want to jump in quickly. I'm very happy that this category has been created, or this award, because it's not a category basically. And it's needed. And I'm very happy that Chopard has won, because they are one of the few and maybe the only big brands that take this very serious. They were the first to introduce, I believe that was the last Basel World. So that should have been 2000 or 2019. I don't even know how long Basel World is dead, but let's assume it's 2019 or 2020. So already for 4 or 5 years, Chopard announced back then that all their gold is going to be fairly mined, fairly processed. So let's say sustainable gold. And now this watch, the LUC Qualité Fleurier, is a steel watch. They call it, I believe, lucent steel or something like that, which is repurposed / recycled steel. And they're really pushing the envelope because it pushes up prices or it pushes down their margin. But they, as a family, truly believe in this. So kudos to them, rightfully so. I would have hoped that ID Genève would have won, or Cedric Bellon, because they are the Robin Hoods of the watch industry if it comes to sustainability. So I really hope that next year ID Genève or Cedric Bellon win this prize.
Yeah, I think there's actually mileage for this to become a proper category. Like, so have multiple watches nominated, because there's so many people doing interesting things on this front. When it comes to recycled steel, though, just a point about recycled steel. Nearly all steel is recycled to some degree. So this is 80% plus is what Chopard is claiming, which is slightly higher than like your normal steel, which is probably about 60% recycled. But you can get even higher. You can go up to like 1995, like Fortis uses 95% recycled steel, and ID Genève not only uses recycled steel, but melts it in a solar furnace. If you don't know what that is, go check it out. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I'm going to correct you here. Cedric Bellon was the first ever watchmaker to use 100% recycled steel.
I'm not sure that's a correction as much as it is an addition. But
Addition.
well done.
Fair enough, yeah. And he is the Robin Hood together with the boys from ID Genève, and I'm really trying to make them work together. So I'm working behind the scenes. I'm very happy that there's more being done in the watchmaking industry. I don't think there are enough brands to make a category of 6, but I really hope that more brands follow both ID Genève and Cedric Bellon. Behind the scenes, I'm trying to make these gentlemen work together as well. And Cedric Bellon really is a gentleman, and he doesn't get enough credibility, but that's why we did a collab with him at Ace Jewelers, the first ever recycled steel watch. And we're now pushing the envelope on titanium. Super cool. But let's go quickly to the next award, Rob.
Well, we've left this one to the very end to announce because we're massively biased and we're not sorry. It's the Audacity Prize, the perfect award for possibly the perfect watch designed by our good friend Sylvain Berneron. The Mirage Sienna was duly honoured as a fitting winner for the Audacity category, or not category as you would say, award. I mean, how often has a watch been better suited to an award, really?
I don't need to add anything. I think we've said it often enough. I'm not objective. Friends with Sylvain. The first time he's shown me the prototype, I don't remember how long ago, 2-3 years ago. It was simply a 3D printed something with a paper dial. I fell off my chair literally, ordered it on the spot, and I said to him, "You're going to win GPHG. Thank you, GPHG jury, for making it happen so I don't look like a fool."
It was obvious to us from the get-go, wasn't it? You have been saying that for years, and I fully support that prediction, and we're just happy that it came to pass. You know, that it looked likely that he was going to get something, but you never know until you know. And it was great to see him on stage. He had a good speech, and it was just heartwarming, inspiring, as always. And this is just the first chapter in a wonderful story he's already begun writing with his wife and his team. And hopefully the next few years will be successful for him, so he has the peace and the headspace he needs to be as creative as as is possibly able, and who knows what might follow that. All right, we did it. We wrapped it up. That's it. GPHG 2024 in the books. Please get in touch with us if you have any comments or questions about the event or anything else. You can do so by either contacting our slightly reworked Instagram page at therealtime.show. You'll be able to find links to all of the host profiles on there, so you can contact us directly or send us messages. That would be lovely. You can also contact us via email, either Rob, Alon, or David at therealtime.show, or via the contact form on the website, www.therealtime.show. So 3 years in a row, we've covered the GPHG, knocking off our second anniversary with style. Can't wait for the fourth iteration and our third anniversary, but we've got a lot more interviews and a lot more great watch content to come before that. Tune in next time for another interview with one of watchmaking's finest. Until then, stay safe and keep on ticking.